welcome back to the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Always love chatting with Jason Rorie. He's a regular on the program, one of my favorite go-to people when it comes to all things cybersecurity, a leading authority in the field, and one of the reasons why he is a contributor here on the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. Today we're going to talk about a very, very timely topic, which is incident response. How should you react when a cyber breach happens, which seems to be one of America's favorite pastimes, is cyber breaches. And so we're gonna get into that today. But Jason, before we do that, a little bit about your company and your background, very quickly, and the best website for people to get more information.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, Kevin, thanks for having me back. Always enjoy this. A little bit about me and the company. So Triad InfoSec is a cybersecurity governance, risk management, and compliance advisory firm. So we help businesses analyze risk, mitigate those risks, build resilient cybersecurity programs that are compliant and ultimately secure as well. So yeah, look, about my background, I've been in IT and cybersecurity for 25 years. Just started out in the military, had a top secret clearance, and that really, just kind of set me on the path of technology and securing companies. Found my calling, doing consulting, and been doing that for probably the past 20 years. I've helped several hundred businesses throughout my career, be more operationally efficient with IT and more secure with cybersecurity strategies. And you can definitely find out more about us on the website. That's www.triadinfosec.io.
Make sure you check that out. All right, our topic today, you were talking about a cybersecurity breach. Is incredible how frequent these happen. Talk a little bit, kind of set the stage a little bit on how often you're seeing it. And are you seeing a continued rise? Give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen a lot. It happens more than most people think, because the amount of breach attempts and the amount of successful breaches really are not, reported in the mainstream news. We hear about, the big breaches, the Targets and United Healthcares and, those type breaches of the world, the AT&Ts, and that list can go on and on, the ones that we're mostly familiar about. But, the sheer amount of cybersecurity attacks that materialize into full-blown breaches for the small, medium-sized businesses, I have those. And consideration when we're a small business, thinking that, it could definitely happen to us. So that's, one of the things that I love to educate small business on is, it's not an if, it's a when, and you have to be prepared for it. And that's where it really drives the topic we're going to discuss today, which is incident response.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about that. Kind of set the stage for it. So I think that from stories I've seen and other business people I've talked to, particularly the smaller the business and maybe the older the owner, I don't want to discriminate. Frankly, my kids say I'm a dinosaur, so who am I? The more likely they're going to think, it'll sort itself out. I hate to see this happen, but I'm sure whatever is wrong is external, that type of thing. And unfortunately, it's something that really demands immediate response.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Incident response is probably one of the most critical things you can do for your business. It's your game plan. And for any of us playing sports growing up, the coach would always say that we had to practice hard, because the way you practice is the way that you play. And that's the same with incident response planning and practicing, because there's an exercise called a tabletop exercise, and that's your practice. You should do this annually, if not more often. So once you have finalized your incident response plan, these are the steps that we're going to do. If an incident happens, these are the people involved. This is how we communicate. It's how you play the game, so to speak, right? So your practice runs are your tabletop exercise, and let's just take one of the more common scenarios, which is ransomware. So all the players involved in the business. It could be, the C-suite, internal IT. It could be your outside IT providers. If you have them, and you just sit down and you go through it and say, okay, we walked in this morning and we noticed that there had been a ransomware outbreak overnight. All the systems are encrypted. We're completely down. What do we do? And that's when you pull the plan out of the drawer and you start running through it. Who should do what? Who should communicate with how? Should we call the insurance company? And all those things. So it's a very critical piece to your overall cybersecurity program. Most compliance initiatives require proof of the tabletop exercise, and it's even a thing that insurance carriers want to see proof of when you're applying or renewing cybersecurity insurance, because doing those type of exercises shows that you're doing the things that you need to do to help mitigate risk and then also ultimately lower the impact that incident has on your business if it does come to fruition.
Yeah, and it's really important for the listener, I think, to remember that, when you hear insurance for cybersecurity attacks and people go, oh, so that means that they can restore your computer if something happens. And it's like no more so than your health if you get a serious disease, but you had insurance to cover for that disease. All you can do is mitigate the cost, but not necessarily restore the body. We like to see that happen, but it doesn't always happen. And it's very analogous to that. And that really leads to this importance of an ounce of prevention being better than a pound of cure. So many people still have almost a purely defensive mode when it comes to fighting or dealing with potential threats, when they really should have a proactive, almost offensive role, which is why a company like yours is pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is definitely a proactive measure that you should do, because if we think about an incident and a full-blown breach and you're down, if you haven't taken the time to have a fine-tuned approach to how you respond to that, that just means ultimately your business is going to be down for much longer than it should if you knew exactly what to do. Because the whole goal is to get your business back up and running. That's one of the final stages of incident response is recovery. You're trying to get to that stage as fast as you can. I mean, there's other things obviously that have to happen in the middle, as far as isolating and doing forensics and all these other pieces to really figure out how the incident happened. So then you can kind of go back and make sure that you plug those holes, so to speak. So it's definitely, worth the planning to minimize that impact, because if you play, like you mentioned, purely reactive to these incidents, there's a good chance that you may not recover at all. And if you can't recover from one of these incidents, who's to say that you're going to have the ability to stay in business? And no one wants to hear that, and you think, well, I've never experienced an incident, so why should I do this? It's not going to happen to me. And, we talked to Kevin about the broken mindset in the past. And, I kind of relate it to a car analogy. You go out and you buy the safest car, you have car insurance, and you're a defensive driver and you're doing all the things correctly. Well, that's not a guarantee that you'll never get in a car accident. Sometimes it's just purely not your fault. And a lot of the cyber incidents, you could be doing a lot of the things that you need to do, and you're doing them correctly, but nothing is bulletproof in this world. There's a very good chance that some adversary, bad actor, could still find his way into your systems, even at your best effort. So you have to be prepared for that. You don't want to have to pull that plan out of the drawer and actually, act it out in a live scenario. You don't want to do that, but you have to be prepared to do it.
Absolutely. And again, this is why you actually need someone in this space. You don't want to be scrambling on whatever device you have left that's still working after your computer has been seized to try to get a vendor off of and there's nothing wrong with things like Fiverr. They're all good. They're all good for their purpose, for certain purposes, but this is simply too important. Kind of give us some takeaways, some marching orders for the listener, because this is so important. And this is one of those things that it's so utterly devastating for a company once it goes wrong. And you said something very important, Jason, which was that, the longer, really what you're alluding to is the longer we go without a problem, the more delusional we become that there never will be a problem. Reality is that the laws of chance are getting more and more against us every day we don't have an incident.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting crazy. This is, some of the figures that are out there, just to speak from a financial perspective, I think this is what a lot of listeners will resonate with is, in 2024, even companies that have less than 10 million in gross revenue, the average cost to rebound from a ransomware attack is well over $1 million. And then the numbers just go up, staggering from there. 10 to 50 million, 1.5, 50 to 200 million, $2.5 million in recovery costs. So you got the ransom fees, downtime, all things considered. So what you want to do to ultimately lessen the likelihood and then lessen the impact is, to engage your outside IT support, your outside cybersecurity advisory. And that's ultimately what we do is we come in, build a comprehensive cybersecurity program considering all the risk that we can determine that your business would face. So our ultimate goal is to look at the gaps in what you're doing now versus what you really should be doing. And then we want to fill those gaps because the more gaps we can fill, the stronger the program, the less the risk. And our ultimate destination is to get an organization to what they call acceptable risk. And there's a lot of strategies to get there, but once you can get to that level, then the likelihood is reduced, but also the impact. And again, nothing is bulletproof. We don't come in with a bulletproof solution either. But what we can do is lessen that impact, and that's what we want to do is say, okay, if something does happen, we have the mitigation strategies in place to contain it and recover from it quickly so there's a minimal impact. You're not down for that long. You're not going to lose that much money, all these things considered. So that's what I would suggest is have that conversation with a trusted strategic advisor that understands risk, understands identifying it and mitigating it, have them come in, take a look at your system, and then make those suggestions and continue that conversation.
Yeah, Jason Rorie, always love having him on the program. A lot of people, it's not, in some ways analogous to, petty thieves who go down the street pulling the handle on car doors, right? And just waiting for the one that's easy to get into. That kind of thing is happening all the time in the world of technology. Just take phishing scams. That's exactly what those are like. Pulling the door handle. Who's going to keep your door locked? And obviously there's a lot more layers after that because some thieves are more ambitious than others. And so you've got to be prepared. There is an inevitability to this. Jason, one more time, your best website.
Yes, website, www.triadinfosec.io.
That is Jason Rorie. I am Kevin Price. You are listening to the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. Stay tuned for more after this.